I was born son of an architect who was also in model airplanes, RC model airplanes in the 50s, of all things, which is kind of when a lot of that stuff started. Commander in the Navy got me a job with a friend of his in Cincinnati. Came out in 1968, 2 weeks after high school graduation, and been here ever since. You got a pretty good knack for this model making business. He said you ought to try looking into industrial design. So that was the beginning of my interest and knowledge of industrial design. After that, it was 4 years of grueling industrial design projects and late nighters, and a lot of hard work there, but it was not really my calling. So I started doing a little bit of side work into model making for LPK and for P&G and for Clopay at the time, making garage door openers and bifold doors and things like that. It was quite a good experience. There's a lot of stuff to do. That was the beginning of a pretty great time in industrial design and model making. I think that's always been the goal. Designers design stuff and we interpret the designs and follow that vision once we understand it. And we don't really get to interpret it anymore. Back in the day, there was none of that. So we interpreted designs from three-dimensional or from 3D drawings and conversation and meetings and feeling and understanding what they want. Several years, I've taken it upon myself to make sure that the student awards are taken care of. And you can see the kind of work and the passion that they have, and that's what happened with all of these guys here. I'm helping Brad Albrecht, the new owner, as best I can to find the new path, and things have been good.
Well, my name is Tim Zarki. I'm currently a product visualization specialist working at Meta and living in San Francisco. I used to draw constantly, so that was kind of my main hobby as a kid. Anytime I had free time, I would be in my room with like a pencil and paper, just drawing incessantly, anything that came to my imagination. And that interest in drawing eventually kind of transitioned into an interest in digital art as well. Felt like that was my true calling, and I needed to figure out a way to pursue that professionally. I ended up going to DAAP for my ID degree, and I think that was probably one of the best decisions that I've made in my career so far. I loved the fact that DAAP had such a strong internship program, and I think it not only did it set me up for success, but I think the internships that I did in school really were the beginning of my career and made a lot of the connections with people that led to my first job out of school and ultimately the path that I'm on now. I had done my last internship at DAAP at Minimal, and I was very fortunate that they offered me a full-time position after graduating. And I was also really fortunate that the Minimal, I think, as a company, really promotes visualization as something that all of their industrial designers are quite good at. I think they do a lot of rendering, and everyone has like a really good eye for just making beautiful images there. They kind of recognized that I had this passion and that I was learning a lot of these 3D tools on the side, and wanted to kind of enable that and allow me to kind of give me the support that I needed in order to do more sort of product visualization work for Minimal. As part of my job there. That was definitely kind of a leap of faith. I felt like when I was leaving Minimal to join Meta and do product visualization full time, I really felt like I was taking a bit of a risk and not really sure. I wasn't sure how it would pan out at the time. The work that I'm doing at Meta, I would say my design philosophy is to communicate, create imagery that both communicates the product very clearly to people so they understand it, while simultaneously making them excited about it. A lot of the things that I've been exploring over the past few years are really purely art for art's sake and really taking inspiration from natural processes to create really beautiful abstract artwork. One of the most inspiring things to me about generative art is the fact that you can program a relatively simple system with rules that you could easily describe to somebody else and have them understand the rules. But when those simple rules are put into practice on a large scale, you get complex outcomes that were completely unexpected that you never would have been able to predict. I'm hopeful that anyone listening to this can hopefully feel inspired and maybe feel motivated to pursue their own passions and to learn something new or explore a new way of doing things, because that's kind of what I hope that I can do to motivate other people,
So my name's Abby McInturf. I'm currently the co-founder of BandConnect. BandConnect is a care delivery platform that extends the in-clinic physical therapy experience into the patient's home. I think of design as a tool. It's not a standard process. I often say that design taught me how to problem solve, and I'm problem solving every day as I grow with this company. I think I was more exposed to the design world as a kid growing up. My dad is an architect and also a professor at UC in the architecture program. So I was around DAAP a lot of my life. I was actually in the DAAP fashion show when I was in elementary school. Yeah, I always joke that Cincinnati keeps pulling me back. So I didn't want to admit that I wanted to go to UC because as a high schooler, my dad taught there and I wanted to, go do my own thing. So I made my decision to go to UC the last day that I could. I think that seeing patients and seeing users use your product is so impactful and it really keeps you going. And so throughout all of my co-op experiences at UC, particularly in the healthcare space, seeing patients and surgeons actually use the product that you've designed and seeing how that benefits it is really cool. And I think that's the reason that a lot of industrial designers get into the field. So I was in the concussion studio and we were studying concussions and found out that women are twice as likely to get concussions than men. And it was really a design problem because the athletes, they didn't want to do these exercises because it was perceived as making them build muscles where they didn't want to build muscles, when in reality they were toning those muscles. Yeah, so when I graduated at UC, I went through the Venture Lab program within a month or two of graduating, and I was still weighing, do I actually start this company or do I go find another job? And so I think the Venture Labs really pushed me in the direction of starting the company because they have a network here that really helps you start and it gave me the confidence to continue to the next stage. The way it started was 2 handles with resistance bands that connect to a platform to help give patients feedback. And so when we pivoted into the physical therapy space at the Venture Labs specifically, we recognized a greater need there because there's so many more patients to help, and they need help because only 35% of patients are compliant with their plans of care and 70% drop out after their 3rd visit. So I think that a lot of people ask me about my experience with the Venture Labs, and I never really expected to be able to start a company out of college, and the Venture Labs gave me the tools, network, and resources to do so. And so it's really cool now that we're in clinical trials to actually see patients using it and benefiting from treatment. In design school, you learn about all these things about how to, put the user first. And I think utilizing those tools as we continue to grow is really important from both a clinician and a patient perspective, because ultimately it is a tool for the clinicians to provide better care. We're currently going through clinical trials with 2 nationally recognized health systems in the region. We're also kicking off a pilot with the Army. And so we're really excited about the data and the feedback that we're receiving from the clinicians and patients from all of those opportunities.
I had a very rich education. I went to Arsenal College of Design. And you asked this question about, did I know about industrial design? Yes, absolutely. I knew about industrial design.
I did, when I first came, I was hired by Jim Alexander as part-time to actually do the first shop, the Sandra shop. I ran it until the dean caught up with me and said, no, he's gonna be an assistant professor. He and I were there for years, okay? I started in 1970 as an adjunct, and I didn't get hired full-time until 78.
I got hired 85. Before that, I taught at Cal State LA and Cal State Northridge for 6 years. And then I started teaching in 85. 85 to probably about 1991, it was great. Probably the best place on the planet.
You know, when we were up for tenure, or going for tenure, you could, back in the day when he and I were going through, you had a choice between being evaluated as a teacher or as a researcher. No, I chose, and I think Tony did too, we chose teaching, okay? And so that's what we did.
I taught the theory and design method. It was a human factor. They call it human factor. And the other class was a studio, a chair. They're supposed to make something. You're supposed to use a certain type of hypothesis and theory, then you gotta make actual three-dimensional. Because I believe in 2D and 3D. I taught 5th semester junior for a long, long time. And I used to do a chair project for 20 years and did a workstation when Gil retired, so I continued that. If you talk to the student that I had, yeah, Tony was tough, but he'll tell you that I was fair.
I do something called, we call it a simple furniture thing. But basically, it's in addition, it's a woodworking project that forces them to actually use their hands and begin to see the transition between hand and machine, how that all works together. But I agree with Tony in this respect. The point about a studio is that it's a community. That's probably unique in the education of the university, where you have a community of people who you're going to be with until the day you retire, really, when you think about it. So when you put stuff up on the wall and they're looking at it, it's not only do I have to come up to a certain standard, it's like, oh, I never thought of this. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's different than when I was in school, where, you know, everything was, you didn't share. I find these kids really willing to share.
But the final analysis is we designed this for human, and we're going to improve the quality of life. That's what industrial design is. Fixing this 160-year-old barn in Japan. Okay, I think that's my interest right now.
Well, I've been studying with a Russian master, okay, a Russian immigrant in carving. I've been down to my 9th year with him. And you can see some of the work that I've done.